are here for the Paver Saver It's Your Own Asphalt session. Joe Busemeyer is going to be our presenter today. My name, Christy Powell, is on the slide, but I am going to be the moderator. Joe has worked in the GIS field since 2004 and with LINK-GIS PDS since 2007. His primary responsibilities with LINK-GIS PDS include developing web-based GIS applications, working with ArcGIS Enterprise, assisting Northern Kentucky agencies with specialized GIS projects and custom mapping. Joe also works with city administrators and emergency management administrators in Northern Kentucky to meet their GIS needs. He has an MBA and a BA in geography from the University of Cincinnati, and he's a member of the Kentucky Association of Mapping Professionals. The presentation today, the abstract for that, just quickly, is the GIS Application Development staff at LINK-GIS has created an application called Paver Saver as a way for agencies to coordinate on pavement projects and potentially save money. This application was developed from a combination of innovative software, including ArcGIS Online, ArcGIS Survey123, Microsoft Flows, and WordPress. This presentation will outline the process of how the Paver Saver application was developed and will walk us through demonstration of how it works. And if you have any questions, Joe would prefer to save those to the end. You can send them to me as the moderator in the chat. I did work on the project with Joe, so if I can answer it in chat, I'll do that during the presentation. And if not, if it's a longer answer, then we'll discuss it at the end. And with that, I will turn this over to Joe.
Okay, thanks, Christy. Welcome everybody to Paver Saver, and if you're here to listen to me present, well, it's your own asphalt. And so as Christy mentioned, I am part of the PDS GIS team, and I put Christy's name on here as well, not just because she's moderating, but her and I worked exclusively on creating this Paver Saver application, and Christy was so instrumental, especially in the Microsoft Flows portion that I'll talk about in a little bit. So again, you kind of have a double team here, because not only can I answer some of the questions, Christy can too, because she knows this program inside and out as well. So I'll go ahead and get started here. And just really brief background, we are both part of the PDS team. For those who do not know, this is a planning agency in Kenton County, Kentucky, and which is Northern Kentucky, just across the river from Cincinnati, Ohio, large metropolitan area. The planning agency was formed to help deal with suburban growth explosion after World War II. And the GIS department is the managing partner of the LINK-GIS consortium. The LINK-GIS consortium was formed in the mid-'80s, and we administer GIS for 3 counties in Northern Kentucky: Kenton, Campbell, and Pendleton counties. We provide maps, data, GIS services to those 3 counties and the multitude of cities, agencies, and businesses in Northern Kentucky. LINK-GIS used to have a contract with a third-party vendor for use of their web mapping application they had developed for a way for cities and agencies to coordinate on pavement projects in Northern Kentucky. Well, that project, or that software, was often thought to be kind of cumbersome, not very easy to use. A lot of people who are using it stopped entering in data because they didn't really like the way that it worked. And it wasn't really promoting coordination or communication between people who were entering in projects. So we created Paver Saver in-house as a way for the utilities, cities, counties, and other agencies to coordinate on their pavement projects, and hopefully save money. By doing this in-house, we have saved the LINK-GIS partnership the $17,000 a year licensing fee that was being paid to the third-party vendor. Now, when we created Paver Saver, we really wanted to have simplicity in mind when we designed this. There's 2 main areas to the Paver Saver software. There's the project entry form, and there's the data editor map viewer. We wanted these to both be easy to use. We wanted people to be able to enter in projects very easily in a straightforward form, And then we wanted people to be able to view their data and other people's data in a straightforward, easy to use map viewer. And we wanted to get the info out to the people so coordination can happen. So when people enter in a project, emails start going out to the necessary people with contact information, and they can start talking to each other. And finally, we put links to the project entry form, links to the map editor, training documentation, and training videos that we had created all in one place. We call it our Paver Saver Information Hub, sort of a one-stop shop for all things Paver Saver, and it is a part of our LINK-GIS website. So the project entry form is the first of the two applications that we developed for this project. This was created using GIS Survey123 from ArcGIS Online, and this is where users enter in a new pavement project. Not anyone can enter in a project. You have to have a username and password, login credentials to access this form, as well as the map viewer for editing data. So here users go in, they draw a vector-based line to indicate the location of the project, and then after that they can enter in attribute information, give the project more detail and some more contact information as well. So if you're not familiar with Survey123, basically looks like this. On the left-hand side, what you're seeing is the user interface for creating a form in Survey123. You can see field names, entry areas, extra notes, and what you see on the right-hand side is the spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet that is tied to the Survey123 form. The spreadsheet on the right is where you do all your configuration for the form on the left. You configure what a field's name is, what it's going to say, the type of data that it's collecting, whether it's text, number, etc. And basically you configure and customize the form through the Excel spreadsheet that then controls the user interface in the Survey123 form. So we did that, and when we push it out to the web, it looks slightly different than the form that you see here. This is what our project entry form looks like when users access it from the web. Excuse me. And being web-based, obviously they can access this from any location at any time. So when they open up the project data entry form, the first thing they're going to do is go into the embedded map, click on the vector draw tool, and begin drawing in a vector line, dropping one point at a time, representing the area where the pavement project is projected to be. They double click when they're done, and then they can move on to entering in project information, project number, project name. Because we're dealing with so many different entities, cities, and agencies, everyone's going to probably have their own sort of project numbering system, their own naming system. So we sort of left this as a wide open option for people to be able to enter in their information however they see fit. And then what's very important is who's the owner of the project and what is that person's email. That email is critical for communication, which I'll explain in a little bit on the Microsoft Flows side of things. After you put in that information, additional information about the project can be entered in, maybe what type of project it is, what sort of facility is it, start dates or projected start dates, projected end dates, project status, if there's extra notes that need to be put in about the project, that's all here and then added to the attributes of the project. Anything with a red asterisk by it is a required field. A person cannot submit this data until all the required fields have been met. Once all the information is put in, they click the submit button. This is just a quick illustration of what a new project entered into the database may look like. Simple, we're all GIS folks here. You know, you drop in a point or a vertice, start drawing your line, move your different angles, double click when you're done. So when you hit the submit button, two things happen. So first, that project or that newly entered project record is added to our Paver Saver project database. So it becomes a part of the feature layer service that we have. And secondly, it triggers Microsoft Flows to start to run a bunch of queries and then spit out emails to particular people who need to receive this information. Here's a quick snapshot of the Paver Saver database and what it looks like in ArcGIS Online. We currently have over 2,300 records in this database. Now, those weren't all entered in recently. Most of this is legacy. We retrieved the old information that was on the third-party vendor software and used that as the basis of our feature layer in ArcGIS Online. And I believe there were about 2,200 records that had been entered in that date back to the year 2000. Since we've rolled out Paver Saver, I think there's been somewhere between 50 and 100 projects that have been entered in to get us up to the number that we're at now. But if you're not familiar with ArcGIS Online and what a feature layer looks like, this is what the data table looks like for that feature layer. Obviously, there's many fields involved in this specific layer. So then that brings us to Microsoft Flows. When somebody submits their project, it basically Flows is connected or it's calling out the survey so it knows where to retrieve the information from. And when Flows receives the information, it's also receiving the vertex information of the line that was drawn in the data entry form. And it starts to use that information to query against other projects that already exist to look for intersecting data. It's also querying against projects that are, I believe, 3 years old and newer, because we're really only interested in projects that are more recent and still have yet to occur. The center or the line, vector line information is also queried against what city that new data might be entered into. And this also triggers the sending of emails to 1, the person who entered in the project, and 2, people whose projects have been intersected, 3, cities that have been intersected, and lastly, utilities whose lines, sewer lines or water mains may be intersected. And in Flows is where we also construct the custom emails that are sent out to particular parties, be it agencies, cities, whatever. So this is all customized and constructed in Flows. Christy, my colleague, was so instrumental in all of this and figuring out how all this was going to work. So the emails that are sent out, I started talking about it already. There's 4 emails that are sent out. There's an email sent back to the project owner who had just submitted the newly submitted project. Then there's emails sent to the contacts of any pavement projects that intersect the newly submitted project. Emails are sent to the contacts of any jurisdictions that are intersected by the newly submitted project. And finally, emails are sent to the contacts at our friends at SD1 and Northern Kentucky Water District if the newly entered project is within 50 feet of a sewer line or a water main. And this is what the emails look like. So this is the email that's constructed and sent to the person who just entered in the project. Thank you for entering in your project. If the project intersects other projects, that information is listed below. So in the body of the email, we've got this particular project intersects 2 existing projects. And so here's the name and number of the projects along with contact information for those projects. So you can start to reach out and communicate with those people who have intersecting projects and start the communication. Now, for this particular example, there are 2 projects that are intersected by the new project. Each of those contacts would receive this second email. So if you have a project that's already in the database, you get an email telling you that a new pavement project has been entered into the database and it intersects 1 or more of your projects. Here's the information about that new project below. We've got information tied to what the project is, and then of course the contact information of who owns that project and who entered it in. And then there's also a link if you want to view the project on a map. It'll open up the map, the data map viewer, and take you right to that project. Third are any cities that are intersected by the newly entered project. A new pavement project has been entered into the database and intersects the boundary of your city. Contact and project information is included below. Same thing as what is shown in the last email. You get project information, contact information, and of course a link to view that new project in the map viewer. And finally, our similar email to the folks in the utilities that a new project has been entered in and intersects one or more of your water lines. Of course, if this was the sanitation district and not the water district, this would say sewer lines. Project information is below and coordination can start. So really, Paver Saver is a very useful tool, but it's really up to the users to do two things: to enter in their data, their projects, and to secondly, start communicating with other people in other cities and agencies. So this opens up the opportunity for coordination. As I mentioned, we administer GIS for Kenton and Campbell counties, Pendleton as well, but this project is really serving Kenton and Campbell. And in those two counties, we have a combined 34 cities alone. So we've got the two counties, we've got 34 city jurisdictions, and then a multitude of agencies within Northern Kentucky. And there's probably others that I don't have listed here as well. The idea is to get people to start talking to each other and coordinating, and maybe they can tear up a segment of street once instead of twice. Excuse me for a quick sec. I had another presentation right before this, and my voice is hanging on by a thread. The second part of the Paver Saver data editor is the web map. We created this in ArcGIS Online as a simple web mapping application. This is where users can edit pavement projects, and users can edit the project's geometry or its attributes. Simple web map that you would see creating ArcGIS Online. What you'll see initially, of course, is the Esri dark gray background. And then the layer that's turned on are the Paver Saver projects started 3 years ago and newer. We really want people to focus on the newer projects, not all the legacy data dating back to 2000. Those are options if people want to turn on those layers, but being that there are over 2,300 records, that's going to be a lot of information to see. So we just wanted to focus on the more recent projects initially when people open up the web map. On the left-hand side, there's instructions on how to use this data editor in case people get hung up on how to edit a project, whether it's the attributes or the vertices. And a link back to the data entry form if they need to enter in a new project. They would not enter in a new project here through the web map. If they did that, they would not trigger the Microsoft Flows to send out the emails. So we really want people to enter in new projects through the data entry form, which there is a link to that on the left-hand side of the page. And like most things in Esri, obviously, if it's a GIS layer, it's going to have information tied to it. And if it's a web map, we want it to have a pop-up. So we configured pop-ups. So when people open this up, they can start clicking on projects and viewing a project's information. And then of course they can go in and use the edit widget to start editing a project, whether it's the attributes or they actually click again to see the vertices, and they can literally move around one point at a time or several points as they see fit. So we had originally scheduled this for release on April 1st of this past year, 2020. We were going to do in-house training the week prior on March 23rd and 24th. And then something called COVID-19 happened and kind of threw all that out the window. So what we decided to do was, since we couldn't do the in-house training and we weren't really ready for virtual training, is we went ahead and created documentation and videos that walk people through the process of entering in new data and using the map editor. And that pushed our release date back a couple weeks, but I don't think there was any issue with that. Here's the training documentation, a simple Word doc with step-by-step instructions, figures, links, whatever's needed. Training videos, which walk people through the process. There's no sound with these videos, but it shows you the clicks, where you need to click to see things, and then it's got text, accompanying text to kind of explain what it is that the videos are showing. And then our information hub page, which has all the information combined, the links to all the different stuff. And I'll just do a quick demo what this looks like. Live demos are always a little scary. But here is our LINK-GIS Paver Saver page, the information hub page. And again, here is links to the training documentation, a lot of detailed information, a lot of illustrations. We try to make it, again, we kept simplicity in mind, not only with entering the data in, but even with the instructions, just to try to keep it as straightforward as possible. And if people don't feel like reading through part 1, entering in a new project, or part 2, editing an existing project, we've got training video modules for part 1 and for part 2. They don't have to be watched in order. You can click on any one of these, and it's just going to start moving you through the process of what it is you're supposed to do to enter in a project, or edit a project, or navigate the map viewer. And finally, the project entry form link. And when I open that up, there was a slide on this earlier. I have already logged in, otherwise it would have prompted me for the username and password, because again, this is not accessible to the public. We make it free to use for all the agencies and partners, but we do not want the public to see this information. So here's the embedded map, where users can enter in the project simply by clicking on the draw sketch tool, finishing their drawing. They can actually expand this map too and make it larger if they need to. And then you put in all the information. There's a red asterisk, it is required. You click submit, and that will trigger the Microsoft Flows and also enter in the new project into the data application. And so if someone's in here and maybe they got an email with the project number of a project that intersects one of their projects, they can use the filter tool and actually just punch in project name or project number and use the filter tool to go right to the project, look at the information about that project, or maybe they want to look at projects start dates, and maybe they want to look at all the projects with start dates of January 1st, 2020 to today. And that's what we're going to see here. And then of course, users can go in and edit the data as necessary, save any changes they've made, close out if need be, click on a second time to view the vertices if need be, save edits, etc. So that is the LINK-GIS Paver Saver project in a nutshell. And really the idea now is to encourage users to enter in their projects and start communication among themselves. Christy and I are going to be offering a virtual training session towards the end of October. And we're going to help people kind of look at all this information and walk them through a lot of these processes and give them the opportunity to ask questions. And then basically we've kind of got our phase 2 of the Paver Saver project, which is basically going to give people a little more access to data in the form of a dashboard so they can look at projects in terms of which agencies are putting in what projects or what cities are putting in projects, and kind of dissect the project information in different ways. But otherwise, this has so far, I think, been pretty successful. We've had a lot of project entries, and I think the coordination is starting. And we're saving the partnership money, and we hope that this saves other entities in Northern Kentucky money too as we are moving forward. And with that, Christy, I think, where was I? I think I'm pretty much gone through everything I wanted to talk about.
We do have a question from Will Holmes, And his question is, are the projects locked down by the respective entity? For example, the water company can't edit sewer data. And we have not done that. It would be nice if we could figure out a way to do that in the future, but at least for now, we didn't see an easy way to do that. So we just left it open. It does trigger an email if anybody edits anything. So we will know if something gets changed, but they are able to edit any data that's in there, which is part of the reason for locking it down.
They cannot delete though.
Right.
If somebody wants to delete a project, they have to contact Christy or myself, because we then would turn on the ability to delete. We would delete the project, and then we would turn that ability back off. So no one can delete a project, but yes, there's a little bit of an honor system right now as far as not editing someone else's project.
Any other questions? Oh, Will wants to know how many users. We imported everyone that had entered projects over the past 15 years. So there's a lot of people in there, but active users, water sanitation, Campbell County is definitely pretty active right now. And the cities, a lot of them have been sending their data in and letting Ryan Herman in our office put those in. But we've got pretty good participation overall.
And our current list of users, again, active or not, is close to 100 people. It's like 90 or 100 people. Some of them are multiple people from one agency or one city, but that's who we currently have on our list. And we want to kind of push it out to any other cities or agency contact folks who have not heard of this or are not using it yet. Just try to get everyone on board.
Anyone else? We've still got 3 more minutes. Oh, so Brian Frazier asked about Microsoft Flow. We just use the online Microsoft.com account. It's through PDS. We have 50 licenses, I think. So everyone in our office has a login to be able to use Microsoft.com's software applications. And that includes everything from Outlook, Excel, Planner, and then Flow. So we use it completely in the cloud. And there's a trigger webhook, they call it, that Esri has that goes from the Survey123 document to there.
And then when it accesses Survey123, it takes the geometry of the XY location of the vertices and pushes that through the URL, which then Flows uses that information to query against the project map services and the city boundaries so that it knows who to send the emails to.
And then Mitchell had his hand up.
I'm not taking questions from people named Mitchell today.
Joe, you literally just answered my question, because that was what I was going to ask, is how are you returning the city boundaries and stuff? And I guess, like you just said, you're querying against the map service, and
that is correct. Yeah. Yeah.
We had to turn off streaming, because if you have streaming on, it submits so many vertices, the URL is too long, so it can't pass that query to the other map service. And so recently there was an update, and even though we didn't change anything, it got changed to streaming again and blew up our service. So we had to fix that.
And actually this is something I should mention too, is we kind of put a little disclaimer on here: do not exceed 25 vertices when dropping in a point, because that is what will make the URL too long. Now, typically with the regular vertex draw tool, you have plenty of, you can draw what you need to in 25 vertices or less. But what Christy was mentioning is there was an update and it turned the vertex draw option into like a freehand sketch option. So if people started to draw in a line, it's gonna, in a short line with the slightest curvature, you're gonna get a line with like easily a 50 or 100 or 200 vertices, which was causing errors with the data passing to Microsoft Load. So we had to make sure we switched this back to the vertex draw method.
And Kyle Bearden said that he likes it a lot. And what we liked about this, Kyle, was that because we already had the Microsoft subscription and we had maintenance through Esri, we didn't have to spend any money to create this, that this is all things that we were already paying for in-house. And we're perfectly willing to share, like export our flows and share them if anyone wants to see kind of behind the scenes how some of those queries work. Well, we're at 11:46. If there aren't any more questions, I guess we'll end the session. A reminder that from the original agenda, if you printed it and haven't loaded it, they've moved lunch back by 15 minutes to give people a little more time before between now and the start of the next session. So it starts at 12:15. And thanks everyone for being here and listening. And see you in afternoon sessions.